Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing Nic Fit. Nic Fit is a deck that refers to basically a green-based deck that uses Veteran Explorer alongside Cabal Therapy and sometimes Flare of Cultivation to basically power out a lot of mana and play some things that normally wouldn't see playing Legacy, but because we can jump the curve, we get to play like actual mid-range larger creatures and stuff like that. So we're using all this mana that we're going to try and generate to put into things like Green Sun Zenith. We've got a little package with Questing Beast, Grist, Vorinclex. This is a 5 mana 6/6 trample reach guy. When he enters, search a library for 2 forests, put them in your hand, and then you can flip this guy for a bunch, and then he mills, puts creatures into play. He makes your creatures huge, he makes your creatures fighty. So this is just going to like win games pretty quickly, which is kind of the idea once we get our stuff up and running. We also have an Alpha Deathclaw, so this just destroys a permanent. You might have seen this in the Magic Online cube. It's nice to see it finding a little bit of a place here. If we're going to have lots of mana, this seems like a perfectly good way to spend that mana to either get this card or to make it monstrous and blow some stuff up. Then we also have some slightly cheaper things. So we have things like Chaos Defiler. So this is only 5 mana, so we can get this out quite early. If you've seen any people playing Painter, this is quite a common card that they have in there. They bring back with graveyard shenanigans, but we're just going to be casting it. So it's a 5 mana 5/4 trample. When it enters or dies, for each opponent, choose a non-land permanent and destroy one at random. So basically, we just get to choose an opponent's permanent and we get to blow it up because they're only one opponent here, so we just get to blow their permanent up. That's pretty sweet here. And if they try and interact with this, then we can maybe blow something else up. So it seems like a good thing to be leveraging our resources into because we get a nice 2-for-1 off of this, and it's also a big body. We've also got a Harvester of Misery, so we can use this to clear out a lot of little things. We can use it to kill our own Veteran Explorer if we want to. We can use it as a little unaccountable removal early on with a -2/-2 when we discard it, or we can just play it and vanish a bunch of our opponent's other stuff. There is a little bit of anti-synergy with this and the Orcish Bowmasters, but Orcish Bowmasters is just a solidly good card that we should be playing in black anyway. We've got another solidly good card, Endurance. There's a lot of graveyard combo decks right now, whether it's actual factual Reanimator or Oozle Spells or Dredge or whatever. It seems like a good place to be playing 3 Endurance. Also very good into Delver, which is the second most popular deck right now, I think. So that makes a lot of sense to me too. We've also got access to another sort of end game sort of engine here in From the Catacombs. This is a 5 mana sorcery. Put target creature card from a graveyard, so you can hit your opponent's stuff as well, onto the battlefield under your control with a corpse counter on it. You take the initiative. If a creature would leave the battlefield, exile instead of putting it anywhere else. So what we're doing here is getting the initiative, so we're going to be able to grind through some sort of slower decks. Not that there's that many of them around, but just using this to get back something like a Chaos Defiler when we've got loads of mana is nice, but then they have to deal with this Chaos Defiler that's blown up one of their things, and the initiative that's now going to be ticking down for us. So yeah, I like this one quite a lot. I think we're going to struggle against some of the combo-y decks that go underneath us, like Storm and Doomsday. But we should be pretty strong into a bunch of things, and I'm excited to see how this one plays out. Our mana base has got many Boseijus in to try and help versus some of these artifact combo decks. And then we've got a nice selection of basics to go and grab. We have 1 Boggart Trawler as well. Nurturing Peatlands, because we are basically just a green-black deck splashing for this mountain. And we've got this Restless Cottage. So this enters tapped. It adds 4 black or green. And we can pay 4 and it becomes a 4/4 black and green horror creature until end of turn. It's still a land. When it attacks, create a food token and exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. So a little bit of additional graveyard hate that we can channel some mana into if we've got a bit of spare mana kicking around. Alright, sideboard-wise, I mentioned that we're not going to be good against combo. So we've got some Mindbreak Traps, some Leyline in the Void, some Opposition Agents, a Collector Ouphe, and some Disruptor Flute. So just all stuff against unfair decks for the most part. And that is the list. It's pretty spicy. I'm curious to see how it plays. I've been wanting to try and play a deck with 4 Chaos Defilers for a while, so it's nice to see this in the 5/0 deck dump. Alright, please remember to like and subscribe, and if you would like to see my videos early for just £1 a month, you get to do exactly that on my YouTube membership program. Alright, let's go and defile some people with Chaos Defiler. So there is a downside with playing a deck that looks like ours. If we don't have a Veteran Explorer, it becomes quite difficult to play some of these things. We're not in a legacy format where we can just play an Endurance on turn 3 and hope that the Cabal Therapy has done enough. I think we're going to mulligan this. Okay, we have Veteran Explorer. We don't have a way of sacrificing it, but we can also pitch cast our Endurance. So I will keep this, and I would like to be able to pitch cast this. I would also like to ramp into a Chaos Defiler. Maybe we get rid of the Vorinclex. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of the Vorinclex here. Just get a little Veteran Explorer down. It's our opponent's turn. What are they going to do? So we're in a situation where if we don't draw a green card, we don't necessarily want to pitch this Explorer unless our opponent shows us that we don't need to be ready to endurance them. So Savannah, we could be looking at Maverick, we could be looking at Nardu. There's a lot of options here. A green Sun Zenith. So it could be Nardu, could be Maverick, could be green white depths. There are some options. Restless Cottage. Let's see if they block first. I doubt they will, but we can try. I don't think we need to pitch cast an endurance in this game. Or certainly not next turn. I'm going to play another Veteran Explorer. And I'm going to play this Restless Cottage. So next turn we can hardcast an endurance and just have a bigger threat going on. But without a way to sacrifice these explorers, this Chaos Defiler is going to be stuck in our hand for a while. We do have 8 ways that sacrifice the explorer. We now have found the black mana so we can actually cast the Cabal Therapy. Wasteland, we're going to lose our black mana? We are. No attacks from our opponent. And endurance. I guess we play out our Boseiju here. So we attack with both creatures, or we can attack with just one. If we attack with one, then they can't attack us. I think I'll attack with one, just in case they flash in a threat, like a failure or something. That'll force them to blink out our Explorer instead of any of their own things. There is a failure. So now they're going to have to blink out our Explorer rather than one of their value creatures if they want to connect with a failure. Now we can hold back both creatures and threaten to block every turn. Would love a Flare of Cultivation about now. Alright, they're pushing damage, I think, here. We're attacking with both, so they're definitely blinking out our Veteran Explorer. Okay. That doesn't grow their failure. It's only 3 damage, that's fine. We can just sit back on blocks with the 2 Explorers next turn. Fiend Artisan. Okay. They can go and find whatever they want here. Maybe they can get something like an Opposition Agent next turn. That is a grim possibility. Nurturing Peatland. So we have the ability to flash in an endurance and maybe mess up the size of their Fiend Artisan, as well as having a bigger creature on blocks. The Fiend Artisan only works at sorcery speed, so once they go to attacks, they can't just grab something in combat and mess us up. Alright, they've got themselves a Wasteland now. So they can force our hand. We're going to see something here. Let's find out what it is. An Orcish Bowmaster. Pinging us. Okay, they really don't want us to get these Veteran Explorers popped. I think it's worth shrinking their Fiend Artisan by 1 here. It does put the Dried Arbor back into their deck. I don't think attacking is a great choice for our opponent here. We'd very much like to find a way to sacrifice our Explorers. If we can just unlock this Chaos Defiler, I think would be good. A Swamp. Okay, I will attack with this Endurance. So we can draw a Cabal Therapy at some point and sack our own guys. And, you know, we could just draw mana at some point and just deploy our guys. We don't have many red sources in our deck is the issue. We're kind of relying on Explorers and fetch lands to find our red source. Actually, I think we're just entirely relying on Explorers. I don't think we have a fetch land. I guess we have Flare of Cultivation as well. So that's effectively 9 ways to get our 1 mountain. And we can just get the initiative, which gets us our mountain as well. That's like 12 ways. Oh, they're going to let us have some mana here. Okay. We're going to get flashed in with an Opposition Agent here. I hope not. I'd like this mountain, please. And I think we want a second Swamp at this point. We have black cards that are pretty strong. They're going to use this mana to get something sweet with their Fiend Artisan. They might have a Containment Priest, which will stop our guy coming back. Otherwise, we're going to give them the old Battle Cannon on the Defiler here and take out their Fiend Artisan. We'll see what they get here. A Gadok T. That does not impact what we're doing right now. That's good news. Let's make another guy end step. This is the sort of match that we want, just big battle cruiser magic where we go higher up the curve than our opponent does. A Harvester of Misery. Boy howdy does that look pretty bananas on this board. Guess we attack with everything. I don't believe they're going to block anything here. Oh, they're going to have a real rough time in a second. Let's harvest some misery. Just a little 4/1 here. So everything will die, then state-based effects will check, so the Fiend Artisan will die. It won't get to grow. But if we kill one creature, then then this, then it checks. But these will all die at the same time. And we also get the Veteran Explorer trigger. I don't know how our opponent's realistically going to come back from that. Okay, let's get some more mana. I will take a forest and a swamp. If they have a way of blowing up our mountain, that's going to be annoying for us. But I'm not really sure what they could have. I doubt they're doing so micro-spawn stuff. Okay, they have one of each basic. That's good to know. Blast Zone. That's unlikely to be doing much. We're just going to be bashing for quite a lot of damage here. They need an answer for at least our Harvester of Misery. They can survive on 1 life if they take out the Harvester. Send in the clowns. Alright, they had nothing. Battle Cruiser, Magic, ahoy. So what does our opponent have? Opposition Agent is good against our opponent. I don't really think we want the other stuff. There's an argument for Disruptor Flute, but I think we just want to keep a density of creatures. Their graveyard is a zone that they care about. So are we supposed to run these endurances still? The Orcish Bowmasters don't look very good here, actually, do they? Like, we can sometimes ping off some of their 1/1s, but often we won't. I think we just have some Oppo agents here. Shut down all of their nonsense. They will have Swords to Plowshares to kill some of our guys, but I don't think we care about that too much. Most of our guys get to do something just by entering. Whether it's like Harvesters or Defilers or the Deathclaw. If our opponent does have Opposition Agent, that's going to be tough. We do have a lot of stuff that can kill it, but we need to have it in hand. You know, the Harvester, the Deathclaw, the Defiler, but we might be able to get up to the big end if we get jammed up by an Oppo agent in the first place. Okay. We have a lot of mana, but we don't really go anywhere with it. The Harvester of Misery is very good against what our opponent's putting down, though. Is this good enough that I'm just going to sit there behind these and just try and sweep their board with it? Maybe. Is that wild? Alright. I believe in you, Harvester of Misery. Our opponent didn't show us any hand disruption. That doesn't mean they don't have it, but I think they're less likely to have that sort of thing. No 1-drop from our opponent. Or Opposition Agent. What a great draw. That is one of the best cards in this matchup for us. Alright. So we'll just play out our lands and then try and Oppo Agent our opponent when the time comes. We can always Harvester of Misery our own guy, but I'd like to have the Opposition Agent down first so we can strip their basics out of their deck. That'd be quite sick. A plow. Right, we don't get to get our basics off of that one. Fair enough. That was always the thing that's going to happen, but that's a plow that's not being spent on our big creatures, and we can just play lands and cast spells because we have the time to do that. We're not running fetch lands, so their Opposition Agents can't always be the worst thing. Okay, so this is something we probably just have to kill on sight. It's quite large, or it can at least get quite large, and this is the only time we get to interact with it. Just slow them right down. Just keep bringing the pain. Themselves a Verdant Catacombs. So we can just cast Flare of Cultivation. I think we're better off holding up the Oppo Agent and maybe trying to snag something. I don't know if our opponent's going full Natural Order in their deck or not. A Knight of the Reliquary. Okay. That's quite a large creature. A Green Sun Zenith. So we could Green Sun Zenith for a little guy. Cast a Flare of Cultivation. I think we're better off doing that next turn once we've got the Oppo Agent in. So I'm going to deploy this Swamp and try and hold up an Opposition Agent. I'm okay if just take some damage here if they want to attack us. Green Sun Zenith. It feels like they might have a plow here. They burned a plow on the little guy, so I wouldn't be surprised to see one here. Yeah, there it is. Alright, I guess they get their Green Sun Zenith to resolve. So we've got a Sylvan Safekeeper to go alongside this Knight. That's a little spooky. Do you know what doesn't care about Sylvan Safekeeper though? Chaos Defiler. It just does its thing. It's choose. What do we have that we can get with this Green Sun Zenith? Grist, we can start chump blocking with Grist tokens. That's reasonable. Boggart Trawler, it's probably not the one here, is it? If we wait a turn, we can get a Questing Beast next turn. Is that any better though? I'm not really convinced it is. We also want to get this down before our opponent has the option of their own versions of Opposition Agent. We could shrink their graveyard if we want to, but they can always sacrifice and get stuff going. I'm just going to get Grist. Start plussing. We can exile their graveyard with a Boggart Trawler if we wish. and then have that back to block. This definitely feels more like a green-white depths deck. So they attack the Grist, we can block. Do you want to waste any removal on an insect token? Okay, so saying do you want to keep the Grist or we're going to kill the Safekeeper? I'd rather keep the Grist. Because this is quite a good distraction, and if we can just get up our curve and start casting Defilers at some point, then we'll be having a glorious time. We're going to see another Night here. We are, but it's a different Night. Night of Autumn. So this is probably going to be just being a bigger guy, right? Yeah. Just making a larger creature. A Questing Druid. I think step one is to activate the Grist. This can also find us the spooky spell. So we have 5 mana here. We can spend 3 of it and be left with 2 mana. So the cultivation doesn't look great right now. Does the Boggart Trawler look good now? Not really. Play this guy. Am I okay trading this for a Night of Autumn? Am I okay doing that? Like, it's probably going to do that next turn anyway. At least this means that it doesn't just get ploughed straight away. I take this trade and we still clean something off the board and we're in the same position we were last turn. And next turn we can double spell with Flare into Boggart Trawler. I don't want to use this insect token for our Flare. Alright, we're just getting the 4 damage. Don't mind that. Maybe they'll fear us having something of the swamp. They can obviously grow their Night at will. But Death Touch is a useful keyword. If we send everything at Grist, we can just block the Safekeeper and let the Grist die. Or we can trade off the Questing Druid for a Night and the insect token for the Safekeeper. Right, searching for something over here. We floated some mana, so there might be a Knight of the Reliquary that's trying to get some more mana. Okay, so they have the Caracas for the Questing Beast, but they can't attack our Grist with the Knight of the Reliquary because it's tapped. So we can keep our Grist alive. We could even play the Questing Beast and sacrifice it if we wanted to. Alright, we got a failure over there as well. So this is the last turn that insect tokens are relevant because they can just get blinked out now. Keep the Grist around. We can either use it for a Flare of Cultivation or we can use it sacrificing our Questing Beast. So we could get a load of mana. That doesn't help us here. What about the Alpha Claw? What does that do? What targets do we have that I actually like here? Endurance is fine. So if we Flare of Cultivation, we have 3 mana left over. So we can't Flare and... So we can Flare and Boggart Trawler. We could go and get a... If we go and get the Veteran Explorer, we can sacrifice the Veteran Explorer to make them sacrifice a land. That doesn't seem great, does it? We just need to play a bunch of annoying things here. We could Flare of Cultivation to get us 6 mana, but 6 mana doesn't actually help us out here. We need a 7th mana. Unless we can find something good for 2. We don't have any green 2-drops. Yeah, this is tough. Okay, I think we're always plussing this. I think maybe we are flaring here. A non-token. Okay, so I can't actually flare off this, can I? But we could... This is going to force the failure to blink this at least. That's something. We could go and get an Endurance and shrink their guys. We could play the Boggart Trawler and shrink their guys. We could play this untapped. But then that doesn't help us out that much either. Questing Beast doesn't really look great. We could just go and get an Explorer and just jam the Boggart Trawler. And just have the most amount of blockers. I don't hate this. Shrinking the Knight is not an irrelevant thing to be doing. We've also got a lot more time on our clock than our opponent. We got about 50% more. So I could just go and get the guy, sack it, do the thing, just have lots of mana. Like, we want red mana. Right, let's go and get this. I think we just get the Explorer here. This does give our opponent more lands to sacrifice to this guy, which is kind of annoying. But we want to be able to hit the... Yeah, we need to be able to hit the Devourer here. So we're going to put the Mountain in our hand, so it can't be like Ghost Quarter if our opponent has a one-off Ghost Quarter. So we choose 2 lands here. Choose a card to put onto battlefield tapped under your control. So we would like the forest in tapped. And then we just keep the mountain in hand and sandbag it. We can play it right now, but we don't really need to. Okay, we need a good draw. Chaos Defiler obviously is the best draw. The Harvester of Misery is okay. I wonder if they just start blinking their own... There's not much point blinking the night really, is there? What does this do? Enchantment, gain 4 life. Yeah, so they're probably just going to blink out our token and leave us with a 3-1 that can block something. Blocking the knight doesn't feel great because they can grow it as much as they want. Right, the plough is pretty strong there. So we're almost certainly losing the Grist this turn. Have we got something that's worth blinking with the failure? Reason Zenith X equals 3. Is this another knight? Just get some stuff. This feels more mavericky than Green White Depths now that I've seen a few more little bits and pieces here. I don't know, it's sort of like a bit hybridy. Getting that back is pretty annoying for us. So they attack with everything. They can kill the Grist if they want to. Oh no, they're still going here. Why are you... The only card they have in hand is Plough. Are they really just trying to cast a Plough now? You want to hold up the Plough now, but you can just leave your guy. Weird. Weird line to me. I understand doing this, but I don't understand doing it right now. If they could just blink this out. Wow, they're just ploughing our insect token. They have an onboard way of... I guess they can just keep blinking their witness is the plan, actually. That's pretty solid. Yeah, that is pretty annoying. Eternal Witness. Back in the game. Yep, so now they just get back the Source to Plowshares every turn. I see how it is. We have a lot of Graveyard Hate that can interact with this. We have a lot of creature removal. We do have to get through the Sylvan Safekeeper, but we can do that. We have a Harvester of Misery here, which shreds some of their guys. The Failures are 3-3 now, which is unfortunate. But we can take out the Sylvan Safekeeper, which then turns all our other removal on. And Endurance. So I think we'll cast this. We've got the mana to spare. Bash for 4. So this forces them to use the Caracas on it. Maybe they use the Plough. And then they just try and blink the Witness again. And then we get to possibly Endurance something. Yes, okay. They are playing into the mistake that we allowed our opponent to make. What is the last card in their hand? We have a pretty solid choice of blocks here. Alright, they're doing something with the knight. No? Yes, no? You're going to attack first? We've only got 6 minutes left on the clock, so we now have double their time. And they have to win a game 3, which at the current pace they're playing seems unlikely. Gadok Teague. That shuts down our Green Sun Zeniths. Shuts down theirs as well. But they have no cards in hand, so we know exactly what we're doing. No surprises left. So we jam in the Endurance. We can kill the Knight, or we can kill the Failure. It's probably the Failure that has to go. They do get to get back their Failure if we do this, though. That is kind of annoying. So they can use the Knight to go and get something like a Maze of Ith here. But if we kill their Failure, they get it back. But they won't be able to deploy it unless they sacrifice something to go and find a white source to deploy it. Okay. This just delays them a little bit longer, and maybe we'll draw a Chaos Defiler and we just get to blow all their stuff up. This also means no looping plows. Green Zenith that we don't get to cast because of their Gadok Teague. I guess we just hold them back on blocks. I think that Gadok Teague hurts them just as much as us. Right, we're going to go and get a white source here, possibly a basic plains. Okay, just Windswept Heath, just grow the Knight, makes sense. We did just put that back in their deck for them, didn't we? And here comes a Failure again. So they can blink out our Endurance and swing. But they're down to 4.5 minutes, and they need to win 2 games. Harvester of Misery, still incredible on this board. The Defiler, obviously great. Many, many options of things we can draw that are decent. Just that guy. Alright, I'll take 4 this turn. If this is keeping the other guys back at bay, it might save us some time. Or buy us some time even, and cost our opponent some time. We need to be a bit more aggressive. An opposition agent. Okay. I will sandbag this for next time we activate the night, which could be at the end of this very turn. Say hello to my little friend. Do you have another plow in hand? Do you have a sweet land that I would like? Is another question. So they've got an endurance in hand. What would I like here? The Wasteland isn't that exciting. Volrath's Stronghold. What does that do? That puts the Harvester of Misery on top of our library. Oh boy, howdy, would I like to do that. This isn't that great because they have the endurance. But if they endurance now, then we just get to keep blocking and rebuying blockers, and that slows our opponent down. They're never going to win this round. The other option there is to get... I don't think the Wasteland for the Caracas makes a lot of sense here, unless we hit specifically Vorinclex. Alright, so they're playing this now, so we don't get to buy back anything right away, but we can block and buy back our creatures if we need to. That means we're not drawing fresh cards. So we have to make a call as to whether we're trying to grind our opponent out time-wise or draw something else. Planes, let's see what they do. Coming in with a 5-5, coming in with a 4-3, coming in with the 2-2. Are they blinking out? And they're coming in with the endurance. I think they've noticed the amount of time left on their clock here. They are blinking out our opposition agent. Understood. So we get to pick up the failure in combat here. We take a big hit for that, but we clear something off the board. They can just Caracas it if they want to. But again, that's more operations. It's going to take our opponent more time, and they're going to have sub a minute to win a game here, which is not going to happen for them. I don't want to win games by timing my opponent out, but if your opponent is like 8 minutes behind on clock with you, that's on them, and you should play to it. So we're looking for Harvester of Misery here, which shreds some stuff. Because what this does is it means that, I guess the failure wasn't growing anyway, was it? The Harvester of Misery does kill our own Oppo agent, which is annoying. A Cabal Therapy. Okay, so we can force out the failure now, because it's the only card in their hand, and we know what it is. Plays for our Stronghold, I'll pass. This Teague is doing something to the board right now, for sure. But what do we block here? We block this, we block this. They attack for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so they have us dead now. But we're going to grind them out because, like I said, they've been very inefficient with using their clock. And the chess clock is part of the game online. And we're playing Nic Fit. We need to take all the edges we can find. I think we are pretty good in this matchup, to be honest. Because we are just doing creature things. We're just going slightly bigger. We've kind of bricked out on lands a little bit here. But this, it doesn't matter because we're dead to combat damage anyway. However, we block here. Enjoy your... Okay, they still took another 5 seconds there. They could have just F6 once they'd attacked. Okay, I like how we sideboarded here. Do we want Disruptor Flutes just for their little shootery guys? I don't think so. I think our plan is just to kill stuff. Let's just go in. I'll keep this. Like, we've got 1 minute 15 to get through. I think we can probably present a strategy that looks like it's going to win anyway. I would like to take a Green Sun Zenith here. No Green Sun Zenith, but we can take one of these things next turn if we want to. Don't even know which one we're interested in taking here. Play Boseiju. Play a Veteran Explorer. Then I will Cabal Therapy, targeting them. What do I even want to take here? I'm going to get this mountain and I guess a swamp because we have lots of green sources. What are we going to name here? Probably Scavenging Ooze or Galactique. Probably Galactique. Okay, we can just pass. If they crack this fetch land, we get them with the opposition agent. If they get anything into play, we Chaos Defiler it. This game looks pretty wrapped up. From the Catacombs. They're just going to play around our Oppo agent. That's fine. They've got 44 seconds on their clock. I do not have that little time on my clock. Alright, let's Cabal Therapy. This might trigger them to cast the failure. Right, they've just had enough. They've got 39 seconds. I think we donk this matchup most of the time, to be honest. Like, white removal is good, but we have a whole bunch of just big 2-for-1 guys. When the game drags out, we just smash them up. Alright, let's go to round 2. We are on a play. Our hand is a touch on the slow side here. We have 2 2-drops that we can do stuff with. We have an endurance we can't pitch cast. I think we have to mulligan this. Yeah? Like, we came to do this, so let's do it. So we probably bottom, I think it's probably From the Catacombs right now. So we need this to resolve. So let's deploy the Veteran Explorer. I guess we're going to sacrifice our little friend here. So we'll go for Swamp and Forest. Okay, 2 islands. Interesting. Do I get to resolve my Flare of Cultivation, or are you going to hardcast a... I guess a hardcast Days won't work. They could have a counter spell or something. Okay, we'll get a mountain and a forest given our hand. I will put the forest into play tapped. I don't think there's any point getting another little guy. We're going to use these Green Sun Zeniths to power out some threats instead of getting more mana. Alright, we did the thing, but we have accelerated our opponent because they had 2 islands. There's a lot more basic lands and legacy decks these days than there used to be due to the Lord of the Rings set printing all the basic land cyclers like Troll of Khazad-dûm and Lorien Revealed. They've really changed the basic land counting decks. Is our opponent just going to show and tell us off of their own, off of the mana that we've given them? Could do. If they're a combo deck and we accelerate them, that is a disaster. If they're a control deck, it's probably not great for us either. We can just keep presenting threat after threat. But we've given them a solid mana base to work from here. I suspect this is going to get them... It might get them a Tundra, actually. Okay, just another island. Alright, maybe our opponent is just straight up mono blue. Narset Paraveil is just going to find the wheelie dealy spell, because that's no good for us. We need to find and resolve a Chaos Defiler. We could go and get the... I think our best bet here is to go and get the Questing Beast. I don't think the spell is going to resolve. It might do. Oh wow, it did. Let's get Questing Beast in. Let's go attacks. So this gets to attack them for 4 and kill their Planeswalker. Unless we get Solituded. But, you know, can't do much about that. Yeah, they really had it in for Planeswalkers when they designed this guy. They really had it in for people liking short cards as well. Look at all that text. It's basically an essay. But a pretty nice essay for us, because we managed to take out the things they can't do the Days Undoing combo straight away. We've got a good threat on board. If they're just mono blue, they might not have removal. They could be a combo deck. Alright, here is the High Tide. We're almost certainly going to die to this. Thought Lash. Oh wow, that's cool. Love a bit of Lash Gordon. And we have the Oracle. We're not dead to this. We are dead because we put their graveyard in, then they exile them again. Yeah, we can beat Paradigm Shift lines. We can't beat Thought Lash because they can just Thought Lash over the top again. Okay, Disruptor Flute in. We've seen fetch lands, but I don't think that's enough to justify these bits. I don't think Mindbreak Trap is good either. So probably just on some Disruptor Flutes. The Orcish Bowmasters look pretty damn spicy. How do I feel about Alpha Deathclaw? How do I feel about these Chaos Defilers? Our opponent's got some stuff we want to blow up. I think it's the Harvester of Misery looks the weakest card here. So let's replace those with Flutes. And I think that's probably fine. Do I want to replace one Harvester with one Oppo Agent? Just as a thing that we could sometimes do. The Oppo Agent's better than From the Catacombs, actually. Maybe they are. Try this. Do love a Lash Gordon deck. Even if it's going to smash us to pieces. What are we doing with this hand? How do we kill our Veteran Explorer? We don't, is what this says to us. We don't get to cast our Bowmaster, which is one of the key cards here. I think we have to mulligan this. Okay, I guess we keep this and throw back a Flare. The Bowmaster is one of the best cards in the matchup because our opponent is going to be casting Brainstorms and Ponders and all that sort of jazz. Really interesting seeing the High Tide. Our opponent's deck looks very cool. Hopefully they will send me a deck list at some point. I will ask them for it before this round is over. I guess the High Tide means that you can go turn 3, High Tide, Paradigm Shift, that's his Oracle. That's pretty reasonable. I'm of the opinion that our opponent only has blue lands in their deck, only islands. I don't think they have a splash colour. They might have a Surveil land just so they have something to grab when they want to Surveil off of a fetch land, and they're also using these to shuffle Ponders and things, and that is enough reason to be playing fetch lands. They did not shuffle their Ponder. Alright. Orcish Bowmasters, you're going to do the work for us. I think we just play it naked now. Instead of trying to get our opponent, we'll just have a thing in play that can mess with them. Just land go action from our opponent there. We could have something like a Snapcaster Mage here. That would be pretty good. Just trading off for our Bowmasters. Am I willing to trade? It's only 1 damage. I think I'm willing to let it go. I just don't want to get blown out by a Snapcaster unlocking all these cantrips in their hand. If we don't find any land, then this clock is not going to be enough to beat our opponent anyway. Paradigm shift. Okay. Our opponent can kill us next turn. I love this Lash Gordon deck. So we don't have to worry about the Snapcaster Mage, so we can attack freely there, but we do have to worry about our opponent just killing us. Maybe they'll play around our removal spells and go next turn, and maybe we can draw something that interacts with them. But maybe they just got a bunch of... Oh, okay, got Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Target player mills to... Yeah, we got crushed by a combo deck. Not a surprise. This is not a keeper for us. Let's mulligan this one. Okay, I can keep this. What are we looking at? I do like a bunch of the stuff we have here. I think it's the Cabal Therapy that goes. That might suck if we draw a Veteran Explorer, but we don't really know what our opponent's going to. Okay. They've mulliganed to 4 cards, so hopefully these Endurance we've kept will be useful. I think this is the 4 most generically useful cards we could have kept from that hand. I guess we could Cabal Therapy, play Bowmasters, Cabal Therapy again, but then we're having to spend 2 cards to basically just unmask our opponent then. They've mulliganed to 2. Are they playing some amount of Echo Vion's Lion's Eye Diamond? That would be my assumption. There's not really other decks that would mulligan all the way to 2. I've done it on Turbo decks before, but that's not really where I want it to be. I will play this Swamp and pass. Let's hope that our Endurance does some work here. Alright, we'll just get our little friend in and start beating away. I would like to draw a green land so we don't have to use this Boseiju, because it might be the sort of thing that interacts with a combo deck. Alright, excellent. We just attack for 2 here. And then we can hold up Endurance / Boseiju. And that will hopefully carry us through. Our opponent obviously mulliganed into Oblivion and just gave us a bit of a free roll here. I will deploy 1 Endurance. I will not deploy the second one though. Not until it makes us win the game immediately. Well, my opponent from the last round has just sent me the deck list. So you might be seeing a bit more Thought Lash on the channel soon. Let's play a Swamp. Let's Cabal Therapy, at least see what our opponent's up to. They might scoop to this so we don't see. Balustrade Spy maybe? Okay, they have an Undercity Informer. Is there a bit to go? We don't want to hit that because they can then reanimate it. Okay. Okay, I think we can just rest on our laurels a bit here. So this is 3, 4, 5 next turn. So next turn we'll put our opponent to 8, 7, in fact, and then we can just deploy that and have lethal. We could just blow this up and mess our opponent's mana up some more. They don't have basics in their deck, so they can't have basics in their deck because that's how their deck functions. I will take my instant speed sinkhole, please. Attack. 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'll deploy this Veteran Explorer and I'll pass. Her needs to kill us this turn through an Endurance. Oh wait, I've tapped down. That's fine. We can Harvester of Misery this, get 2 forests, and then cast the Endurance. It still works. Right, let's scoot it up. Don't blame them. Okay, so what looks good here? Collector Ouphe has some text. Disruptor Flute has some text. Leyline of the Void has some text. Mindbreak Trap has some text. If they're on the Summoner's Trap build, the Summoner's Pact build, then Opposition Agent has some text. So what is going to be slow and not very useful here? These things. Alright, so we get to bring some of these back in. So I guess we just want a couple of like Defilers. Probably fine here. That'll do. Or do you want 1 Vorinclex? Because that just ends the game quicker. Let's try that. What does our hand do? We have an Endurance. That's probably something, isn't it? I will take that. I'll keep. We can ramp some stuff out as well. We can get a green cell on turn 2. Our opponent kept 7 though, and usually when Ouphe keeps 7, it's going to be able to beat you whatever they've done. But they might have kept a hand that gets through something like a Leyline, but we don't have the Leyline. They obviously don't know we're playing Leyline, but they kind of have to be aware of the various hate that exists. A white mana source, interesting. And a pass, also interesting. A Veteran Explorer, don't mind if I do. Veteran Explorer. Flare of Cultivation. I get a swamp and a forest here. I get a mountain and a forest here. So we've got Orcish Bowmasters, not the most useful thing. But sometimes if they're running a Bridge from Below build, you can sometimes snipe out the Bridge from Below in a way that actually helps you. Or you can kill an Narcomoeba with another Narcomoeba on the stack. A Dark Ritual. An Undercity Informer. Our opponent can crack this as they wish. Interesting. What is our plan here? Are we just playing this Orcish Bowmasters? I think so. This stops them if they have a line with the green creature where they can draw 3 cards when they after they memories journey themselves, whatever. Nurturing Peatland. So we could hold up this endurance and cast it. We could play this Vorinclex and hold up the pitch cast endurance and just have a massive friend. I don't mind having a massive friend. What can we get with the Green Sun Zenith? We don't have that little raccoon that I would like here. We don't really have anything other than the Collector Ouphe that we could find. So we go get Collector Ouphe, hold up pitch cast endurance, or we could play the Vorinclex, hold up pitch cast endurance. I think we're just going to play the Vorinclex. Is that true, or do we go and get... No, we play the Vorinclex this turn, right? Because this just wins in 2 turns. More or less. I guess we'll get 2 Bayous. So they're holding up here so they can do Memory's Journey lines. But Endurance is pretty good against Memory's Journey. I guess they shuffle 3 in, so they can decide the top 3 cards of their library. So this Witch Blessed Meadow is also just a thing that answers Leyline as well as giving them mana. So it's certainly an interesting take. I understand why it's in there. Alright, opponent is deciding to do something in their upkeep. Is this going to be crack their guy, put some stuff in? Alright, let's have a good look at their graveyard. We're going to pop it out and make it big because there's a lot to take in here. Fragmentize, that's cool. It's a card that I really like. What is their protection for what we're doing here? They don't look like they're running any counter spells. But they will have Cabal Therapies. Okay, you can have some Narcomoebas. Do we give them 2 Narcomoebas, 1 Narcomoeba, or do we just go for it now? I think we try and see what they do. Jack-o'-lantern. So they're going to have to do Jack-o'-lantern on Memory's Journey. Yeah. So what are they going to put back in their library? Thassa's Oracle, Lotus Petal. Lotus Petal's pretty good. But we let them do all this, and then we show them the endurance. They're targeting just reanimate. Okay. I'm going to pitch cast this endurance right now. We could have done this in a way that got rid of the Bridge from Below permanently, actually. So we won't get the Poxwalkers back. And they'll just be drawing a random card. And we have this massive friend. I will attack with the Bowmaster as well. I don't want to trade these off. That actually works well for us. Attacking ahoy. Would you like to take a massive swing from this Vorinclex? Not a card that I can say I've seen before. Obviously must have glared it at some point in spoiler season, but... Okay, let's just destroy their white source. We might as well draw a card here as well. A Questing Beast. Alright, so we have lethal next turn. Firing that in this turn wouldn't have made a difference, but we still should have drawn first. Thoughtseize. Okay, we lose our Questing Beast, but they go to 6, so they have to block. No, they can't block here. They have to go this turn, right? Because this is 6 trample and then 2. So it's effectively like 8 trample. I guess they have one guy who's still alive. Let's play this. Let's draw a card. And Endurance. What a lovely draw to have. Send in the clowns. So they have to trade off into the Bowmasters, I guess. This gets us objects off the board. Alright, they can soak this up instead if they want to leave us with Bowmasters. It doesn't really matter either way. It's just if they have a way of killing or bouncing one creature, they can at least bounce our big boy. Which puts our opponent to 1. Can they win through our Endurance that we just happened to top deck? Now, we could have drawn something like a Leyline on the Void here as well. We've got a lot of options. our deck feels pretty well kitted out to beat useful spells. Alright, we won the match. Pretty comfortably, I thought. Let's go to round 4. No green mana is definitely awkward for this hand, so we're going to mulligan it. No black mana for this hand is definitely awkward. I guess we mulligan again. Okay, I guess we're keeping this. Get rid of this. And maybe the card that we can't cast. Okay, Orcish Bowmaster, let's hope that you could just solo this one out. It doesn't happen very often these days, but sometimes you can solo a game with the Bowmasters. Put a swamp. Just keep this Boseiju away from me and wasteland for when we actually need to cast a green spell. So we've got a little removal spell, and we've got a Bowmasters, which can be a little removal spell. It can be punishing cantrips. We can do some stuff. Just a swamp. Do we want to get our creature in and start pecking away? It feels like our opponent is going to Bowmaster, so we can just keep it slow. Questing Beast. Not casting you for a while. We could play the Boseiju in case we draw a forest, but I just don't want to be exposed to wasteland just yet. We have a lot of relatively clutch green spells in the form of things like the Veteran Explorer, which we kind of need to do a fair amount of stuff with our deck. And Entomb, you say? Okay, well that's not going to be very good for us, is it? Oh, the Entombed Life from the Loam. Alright, sweet. I'm sold. Our opponent's doing cool stuff. There could still be like a reanimated deck, but they might just be like also having a Life from the Loam plan in their deck. An Orcish Bowmaster. Sure. Oh, now we get to be casting the second Orcish Bowmaster, which is where we want to be. So they do have Reanimate and Life from the Loam. So they've got a lot of stuff going on. So they can Entomb for the Loam and keep going on. Ooh. They got Hogak in their hand. Yeah, that's a doozy for us. Was not expecting the Hogak. We could have prevented this if we were expecting it, but it wasn't among the exile cards. Okay, a Nurturing Peatland. So we can take one hit from this, and then we can take half its damage and trade it for a Questing Beast, but then what? Going to need to find a more permanent answer to this. Now we have some pretty beefy things that can deal with it if we get to that point. We could just eat a bunch of, like, soak up some of the damage with our Orcish Bowmaster, let them eat some of the Hogak to save us a little bit of life this turn, and then try and Harvester of Misery, strip out their token. But then we just have with a 5/4 into the Hogak. It doesn't feel great either. It won't be long before they can just redeploy Hogak again and again and again. Hogak from hand. I don't know if that's the thing we're supposed to play around. It's not a particularly common thing, but our opponent's deck looks very cool. We lost a Questing Beast. I don't think we're quite in Sacrifice and Nurturing Peatland territory yet. I'll take this trade. Okay, we can take one more hit from a Hogak. We need to find an answer. An Endurance. That is an answer. Sort of. I will play this Boseiju. We can't afford to crack our second green source. And the Bowmasters has to crack in there. And then we will Endurance in the second main. Okay, so maybe if we can kill this Hogak, they won't be able to immediately replay it. We've shut off their Life from the Loam strategy. They probably just got a bunch of lands in hand. I don't think they got many lands back last time. Yep, we go to 2 life here. 4, 5 toughness. 6, 7, 8, 9 toughness. So we can play the Harvester of Misery, but that kills this. So we have exactly 8 toughness. We don't have to lose our thing. Okay, so I think we attack with the Bowmasters here. Then we deploy the Harvester of Misery. Then we double block the Hogak. We could just try and draw a card and spike something, but I don't really think we have anything that looks particularly good to spike there. Just going to be a Bowmasters. Bowmasters kills us. Fail Push also kills us. Understood. Alright, we got gacked pretty hard there, but we have some Graveyard Hate that you may be aware of. Let's get these Leyline of the Voids in, and I'm kind of interested by Opposition Agent. That's something I am curious about. I think the Bowmasters look okay. The Endurances obviously look very good. From the Catacombs, if our opponents milling themselves, isn't the worst, but if we're boarding in the Leylines, these get a lot worse. So maybe we don't want to be fighting like that. Vorinclex, this all stuff seems fine. Do we need the opposition agent? We just want to keep our big haymakers so we can deal with their stuff. Maybe that's what we want to do. I'll trim 1 flare. I guess there's the risk of them thought seizing and reanimating our own creatures. But I don't think we'd play around that. Maybe I'll strip out 1 harvester for a flare just to make sure we can get that mana up. Sometimes we can just cast as a cultivate and that's okay. Don't mind having the endurance here. Our hand is very slow though. But they are an entomb strategy. We've seen reanimate as well, so I think we're just going to keep our graveyard hate and hope for the best. We haven't seen wastelands. I think we can deduce that they're going to be there, which means playing out this awkward mountain first, so that if we draw a 2-drop, we at least have a shot at playing it. I don't think our opponent has room for counter spells with what they've got in their deck. Looked like they were leaning a little bit more on discard. I don't think they have the blue to support a force of will, so I think we might be able to resolve our spells, which is nice. Alright. So we'll play on the Nurturing Peatland as our second land, because that way, at least if they wasteland us, we can draw a card and get something. Whereas if we play Boseiju, they just wasteland and it's gone. They took 1 of our endurances. Not really a surprise there. Nurturing Peatland. At least they didn't take our Chaos Defiler that we just drew. That'd be a scare on for them to reanimate. So next time we can cast a Flare of Cultivation, they'll be ready to defile our opponent. A Thought Seize. Not a big lover of them taking our Defiler and reanimating it. But if they do that, we have the Endurance, so they'd probably just take the Endurance here. Oh, they took the Flare. Very rude. Basic land. Good draw. So they can wasteland here and force the action on the Nurturing Peatland, which means we'd have to pitch cast the Endurance. But they decided they don't want to do that. A Ponder. Sure. We obviously don't want to be just casting our Endurance, because we actually need the graveyard side of it instead of just the body. Alright. It's over to us again. Another basic land. I don't hate that. We didn't draw a green card though, so we don't really want to be questing beasting. This also tells our opponent that we drew the forest, because they saw our hand before. So now we're just holding up this green card and this Endurance. Opponent's pausing with that Surveil for a bit. I wonder if it's something graveyard related that they might be interested in keeping hold of. Like a loam. They can at least get the value of casting it the first time around. A Baleful Strix. Okay. A Vorinclex. That's a big boy, isn't it? Are we playing out the Questing Beast? We're playing out the Defiler. We're playing out the Vorinclex. I think it's just the Defiler. Whilst we still have the black mana source. So they can get a good wasteland off now if they want. If they surprise me with a counterspell, then I would be surprised, unsurprisingly. Alright, so we get to blow up their Baleful Strix, and they are unlikely to be able to remove our creature in a way that puts it to exile. They can take us off of black mana if they want, which is kind of a big deal. But we've already gotten our black spell off here. So we could be looking at an Entomb. Oh no, we're just getting end of turn Undercity Sewers. Sure. Leaving the card on top. So they can't cast a Hogak yet from hand because they need the bodies in play. So if they play a Bowmaster, we can, in response, Endurance and make sure that we don't get Hogaked. Although Hogak's not too big a deal, we can always just block with a Defiler and then kill it, and then we can put the graveyard back in afterwards. Don't really want them to take our black source. Hopefully they won't. Pick your poison. We're going to sacrifice an artifact of my choice. Well, I guess it's the only artifact we have. There's no targets here. And there goes the wasteland. We could just Questing Beast here. Let's get that going. Clock our opponent while we can. This is fatal pushable. But, you know, we got to do what we got to do sometimes. No fatal push from our opponent. That's good news. We still have plenty of green cards we can pitch. We probably pitch the Explorer and just hope to top deck for the Vorinclex. But if they try and reanimate our Defiler, we can shuffle it back in. And then Tomb. What are you going to put in the graveyard here? An Uro. That's pretty good. Because we don't have a window where we get to interact and take this out. Okay. Now we have a 4/4 Death Toucher. But they can just take the 4 and then gain 3 on the backswing, and that's pretty solid. But we can deploy the Explorer, and that's going to be irritating as well. There is definitely a downside to running a mana base, like a Nic Fit mana base. So we'll use our non-basic to deploy this Explorer. So we can chump block the Euro, get some mana out, and then start doing Vorinclex stuff. And if you haven't read the flip side of Vorinclex, boy howdy does it do some stuff. I'm not sure we're going to get to do that, but if we do, it should win us the game. We mill 10 cards and put 2 creatures into play, and they're usually creatures that blow up our opponent's creatures. Petty Theft. Okay, it's annoying, but I can take 6 here. Fatal Push. I guess I'm not taking 6 here. Well, I am taking 6 here. Oh, wow. They made the mistake. They didn't have Revolt, so the Fatal Push doesn't work. Ooh, that was a big swing and a miss for our opponent there. Because it's an intervening if clause. Yeah, they've jammed themselves up a little bit there. Left us with a Questing Beast. Wow, they're not even attacking into it. That's pretty exciting for us. Now the real swing and miss turn for our opponent, I'll take it. I will attack with this Questing Beast. They don't want to trade their Uro, so I'm happy about that. So what can we get with this Zenith? Not much, to be honest. We can get this Explorer in. We could get another Explorer, double block, have loads of mana. But I like having the hard cast Endurance available. These cards don't cast a Hogak either. Does this have reach? Let's have a look. Vigilance, Death Touch, Haste. Okay. It's word salad over here. You have to check. Combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. Hopefully, we can do that into somebody's One Ring in the last round. That always makes me happy. Right, attack with just a Tamiyo. I think you need to attack with the Euro there, opponent. Get that through life. We could have played Endurance and blocked, but that's not what our Endurance is supposed to be for. If we play the Endurance right now, we have lethal damage. I think that makes it worth casting. Let's get rid of their graveyard so that if the Euro dies, it's not coming back straight away. We don't have any hasty guys we can find, do we? We've already got a hasty guy. Check the DECKLIST again. No, Grist. Grist is good. Do we want a Grist right now? Play a Vorinclex. We can attack with everything and then maybe get something even bigger out if our Veteran Explorer dies. So this is 8 damage. So we're going to have something here. Drawing the clue. Maybe they want to do that on their turn in case they have a sorcery thing, or is this going to be Revolt triggering? That would make sense. But they... Okay, they're going to blocks here. This is 4 damage. What are you going to kill? You're going to have something here. They got the Fatal Push. Okay. Let's go and 1, 2, 3, 4. Going to get ourselves a Grist. Let's minus this. Some basics. Swamp. And Swamp is probably fine here. Goodbye, Uro. They now get to put this Brazen Borrow in, which will kill our Grist, which is annoying. So we had the basic. But we have a Vorinclex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have a Vorinclex that we can pop the turn after we play it, most likely. Which is why I'm not cracking the Peatland. Because if you ever pop the backside of the Vorinclex, should be lights out. So they're going to attack the Grist, and they're going to attack us, and get themselves a clue, and peck down our Grist. If we play the Grist before we attack, and just kill the Euro, and they fail push one guy down, and we're left with an Endurance, so that works slightly better for us if we do that first. But we had to put our opponent on having something. They're going to mill, and drain for 2. Okay. Well, again, back here. Just a Misty, probably. Or probably a Trop, actually. They haven't got a lot of life to work with. They could get back nothing. So they keep more cards in their graveyard. They return the Trop. We're going to crack this clue. We are cracking the clue. Or a cantrip to flip the Tamiyo. A brainstorm to flip the Tamiyo. Just as good. So we have an option of playing the Leyline, but that's not going to stop the Euro. So I think we're just going to be playing a Vorinclex. And if we get to untap and have a land, then we get to pop off with it. If we don't have a land, then we're going to be drawing another spell, and that's also good for us. Unless we draw, like... Okay, we're just going to play the guy. He's big. he reaches up to the sky. There's a lot of words to read on this one, so I don't blame our opponent for taking their time. Get some forests. Let's get a couple of bayous, I think. Deploy a bayou. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, so we have the Vorinclex. We can draw from the Nurturing Peatland to get a card, but that means we are unable to flip the Vorinclex if they wasteland us. They can't deal with this Vorinclex though, and they're going to have trouble. It is lethal on the next crack, even with the Tamiyo. They can't fatal push it. They've already used a Borrower. They might have something like an Assassin's Trophy, just as a little catch-all somewhere in their deck, but it's most likely to be like a one-of. They could have a Shoulder's Edict. They're returning the Brainstorm. Okay. They are looking. This probably means they have something that matters here. They could have another Grist and sack their Borrower, kill our Vorinclex. That works. Alright, they've got something here. This is just going to be the Uro. It is the Uro. So I think we're just going to pop the Vorinclex. Just try and blow up all their opponents. They find a removal spell. They did find a removal spell here. Can we deal with this in any way, shape or form? We don't have a way of interacting with their graveyard. We just have to let them have this Grist. That is a pain for us. Goodbye Vorinclex. Okay, so now we probably are cracking this Nurturing Peatland to draw a card. Flare of Cultivation. Not the one we want at this stage of the game. And our opponent's done a good job of whittling us down. We've always felt like we're just about there and our opponent just about manages to stop us. And now they're at a reasonable position in this game. Okay, let's draw a card. A Boggart Trawler. It is a guy. Definitely one of the guys that exists. Let's flare. I don't know if we even have enough stuff to find with this anymore. We do. Okay. I guess we're going to cast a Boggart Trawler. It's a creature that we have. We have so many sweet top decks, but we also have so many bad top decks. Like we have the Veteran Explorers and the Flare of Cultivation type stuff. We've got, what, 6 plus... So we've got 10 cards that just immediately put us ahead because we can go and get whatever we want with the Green Sun Zenith. Right, so we're going to lose our Trawler here. This Orc on Goblin Violence. So we're going to take 7. Our opponent's going to draw a card, and I think they just are... They've turned the corner here. They're not a counterspell deck, though. Or at least they're not giving me that impression. I'd be wary about their blue count. But we've got a bunch of Defilers. We've got the green guy that you can tutor for. We've got the Zenith to tutor for him. We've got a lot of options of good things to draw. They milled over a Barragoyf. Yikes. But we're just going to keep drawing these Flare of Cultivations, aren't we? Let's play this Leyline. This is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, they have exactly lethal here. Actually, they don't because we kill the Baleful Strix. Have 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're not dead. So I guess we thin out our deck again in a way that leaves up our basics in case something weird happens. Get the last 2 lands out of our deck. We've got Restless Cottage and 1 Nurturing Peatland left in our deck. So we're not dead this turn, but if they have another Bowmasters, we die. They just need to find 1 point damage. Withering Command does it as well. Let's get rid of the Strix. So 6, 7, 8, 9. We go to 1. What do we draw from 1 that helps? Harvester of Misery kills all their guys and gives me a chump blocker for a turn. That's reasonable. But all they need to do is find a creature and then they can Grist us. Doesn't seem great. We don't have any haste that we can deal 10 damage with. I think it has to be Harvester of Misery into another good top deck. Like Harvester of Misery. Okay, we found the Harvester of Misery. Okay. That is one of the draws that kept us alive for a bit longer. They did have Force of Wills. Okay. Yeah, we just got buried by that deck. They just had a bigger game than us in a lot of ways. And this is kind of some of the problem with Nic Fit. If they can just counter or deal with the 1 or 2 big things you're doing, then you kind of just have a lot of air in your deck, and then they have selection and stuff. We were so close on that one, though. Right, let's go to the final round. We are currently we're 2 and 2. We're 2-2, so a positive record on the line. Let's see if we can grab that. Right, we're on the play. What does our hand do? We can Cabal Therapy our opponent, then we can Restless Cottage. And this is just nothing. This is like a standard deck. Let's mulligan and try and get a hand that looks a bit more powerful. Okay, we can keep this. I think we are getting rid of probably a Boseiju. I'd like lands that I don't get wastelanded off of. There's an argument to keeping the Boseiju there, but I would like to at least have 2 mana that we can rely on. So we can go and get the little guy, or we can go and get the Bowmasters running. Either works. Depending on what our opponent does, we'll know which is the correct play. Polluted Delta. What have you got for us? Nothing. Okay, so if this is an Entomb, we definitely want to be just playing the Bowmasters here. So we have to hold up the Endurance Pitchcast. Black Reanimator, I think, is still the best deck. It's certainly the best by the numbers at the moment. So we should be respecting that when we see a Polluted Delta on the other side and what that deck can do. Because using a Daze and Force of Will to protect a Psychic Frog is pretty good. But using it to protect an Archon of Cruelty is a little bit stronger. Obviously, Archon of Cruelty being reanimated has some other hoops you have to go through. But that's just generally the way it is. Oh, I would be remiss if I didn't at least try this. Okay, we got Force of Will. We got an instant speed him to Turak here. This also gives our opponent less cards to move around with the Brainstorm. They only pitched a Force of Will, so we have little idea what's going on. If they pitched like an Atraxa there, then we would know what our opponent is about. So they could be a Doomsday deck. They could be Tempo. They could be Reanimator, Bug Beans, a whole bunch of different things our opponent might be up to. Another Underground Sea. That suggests to me my opponent is blue-black. So I'm going to rule out Bug Beans for now, unless we see anything that makes us change our mind. So we're just holding up the Endurance, I think. Seems good enough for now. If it's Doomsday, the Endurance can sometimes have an impact. Another Ponder. Wasteland, we don't care about that. So they can still be Reanimator, they're not Doomsday. We're just slow playing Detective over here. A Veteran Explorer. I would like to play a Veteran Explorer. Our opponent almost certainly has 2 basics in their deck. So they will get something if this dies, but they won't be able to kill it in a way that doesn't stop it going to the graveyard. Blue-black does not really go in for the exile. Okay, so we are Reanimator. I'm glad I held up this Endurance. We don't get to play around a Daze here. But they used a Force of Will earlier. There's an Entomb. Right, it's all on you, Endurance. If they have an Archon and we lose this, maybe we can get up enough to get the Alpha Deathclaw. Right, we'll cast a spell we have and see if it's good enough. It's quite a telegraphed Endurance, yet there is a Daze that is not a surprise. Okay. We'll sacrifice our Veteran Explorer. I'll discard this Bayou. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we draw a land, we can go get the Alpha Deathclaw and kill this Archon. So we'll also get the mountain here so we can draw the Chaos Defiler. So we've got options, and we've got some nice sideboard for this deck too. Right, so our opponent drew the Swamp, which we would have deduced anyway from them not playing a Swamp. 4 cards on hand, we know one of them is a Swamp. Can we draw a land and go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can't go with this. So the play here is get hit once. Do we have anything that works with this Green Sun's Zenith that we can find now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is just the Alpha Deathclaw we're going for here, isn't it? Okay, so we have to let the discard trigger take this Harvester, and then we either need to draw a Defiler or a land on the next turn. Or the Alpha itself, but we need to also resolve it. So there's some hoops that we're going to have to go through, and our opponent will be able to reanimate our guys, which is going to be worrying in the post-board games. It's the best deck for a reason, right? Right, a little bit more Surveil action from our opponent. This is the one they bounced the Daze earlier. So they're doing it now because they get to draw it in a second with the Archon, so they can plan their turn better, knowing the full range of cards they're going to be having access to. Alright, we have 1 turn. To get through counter spells, we have to draw the right thing, but there is an out. There's multiple outs. But this is kind of the downside of our removal being so expensive. It is 2-for-1 removal, and we have ramped ourselves out. Okay. So we're exposed to Daze here. But it either works or it doesn't. They're paying cost for something. It's the days. We are dead. Well, are we dead? We can take one more hit, I guess. This is 5, 6, 7, 8. If they flash in a Borrower, we die. If they have a Bowmasters, we die. Interesting they kept the Bowmasters on top and that cuts a turn out of the game. Or they milled it over. Maybe they already have one, no. Like, we're just stone cold dead to a bunch of things. But we have a chance to draw a card that matters. If we can Chaos Defiler this. We don't really have life gain in our deck though. Oh, there's the Bowmasters. That'll do. Alright, fetch me my Leylines of the Void, please. Very much want these. And the opposition agents are interesting as well. So these are things I'm into. Harvester of Misery looks okay. From the Catacombs. This card I think is bad, to be honest. I don't really like it. I wanted to board out an awful lot today. And we'll get rid of it. We need some removal. We need our Graveyard Hate. I think having this sort of stuff. It's probably it depends. So this gets us Leylines. And then we have to decide, do we want opposition agents over Harvester of Misery? Harvester of Misery can shred a bunch of guys. So if they're going for like Bowmasters, Borrower, that sort of jam, we can shred those. So that's a reasonable thing to consider here. The opposition agent is probably not the best. All right, we're going to keep the Harvesters in. I don't feel great that we have so many wonderful targets our opponent can reanimate. But that's the game that we've signed up for. We have green, we have black. We can go and get the thing and try and do some more things. I guess we keep this. I'll play this Boggart Trawler tapped. Oh, it's Boggart Bog, sorry. So they wasteland us, that's annoying, but at least we have our green source, which gets us towards the Veteran Explorer. Not a wasteland. Good news. Our opponent might not even mind the Veteran Explorer being around. So we can Harvester of Misery our own Explorer. That is not great. But if our opponent Thought Seizes us, boy howdy do we have a lot of stuff they can wreck us with. Cycling a Troll straight into the Void. So if they kill this, we could untap with 5 mana to start deploying some big O's. I think we want a Chaos Defiler to be the last card. Alright, so they've got a Doubthy Voidwalker. Okay, so this will stop our Explorer from triggering because it won't go to the graveyard. We can attack for 1 here. And then I think we're just going to Harvester of Misery this. We do need to be a little bit careful with the timing of this. This has to be tapped or summoning sick for it to work for us. So this goes into the Void, so they don't have anything to reanimate here. At some point, maybe our Veteran Explorer will work. Okay, they are going for our green source. That's pretty good. Can I draw a Cabal Therapy? No. Alright, we're in the mess now. It's gotten scrappy. We've shut down our opponent's main strategy. We can't deploy any cards into play. We're just going to play this little game. Alright, so now we've got this Borrower popping off. Looking a little bit awkward for us. Thought Seize. Okay, are they just going to reanimate our Chaos Defiler? Or our Vorinclex? Or our other Chaos Defiler? If they reanimate the Chaos Defiler, they do kill our Veteran Explorer, which gets us towards another one. Okay, they've gone for the Green Sun Zenith instead. Let me ponder. A Nurturing Peatland. That is a green source. I will play it. And I'll keep beating down with the Humble Explorer. And Entomb. Well, this is going to go very poorly for us. Unless we draw exactly Endurance off of this Nurturing Peatland. Although we can... If they get this back, we do just get to Veteran Explorer. Our opponent probably has that covered if they're doing this play, because they've seen these Defilers. So we're going to do what we must. There is a Brainstorm, they're probably putting back one of the basic lands. Or at least taking this free shuffle. Either or, possibly both. Let's get some basics. I'd very much like this mountain and probably this forest. Okay. Can we draw a land so we at least play around days? No. We could Cabal Therapy first to make sure this resolves, but I think I'm just going to... We don't have a lot of time, so we're just going to go Defiler into Defiler and hope that it's enough. Okay, pitch in the Ponder. This is half our life tail. We say goodbye to the Vorinclex. If we've got another reanimation spell, then we're cooked. 3 cards in our opponent's hand. A Restless Cottage. Enters tapped, so we do the thing that's available to us. If they've got a counter spell, we lose. Doesn't feel like we're winning this game. Alright, Emergency Brainstorm. We've got Fetch. Is this a hard cast Force of Will? Feels like a hard cast Force of Will. Yep, not beating that. Rest in pepperonis for us. Okay, so we finished with a 2-3 record, which is about where I would peg Nic Fit. I think this deck has a lot of interesting stuff I'd like to talk about. Some of it not so successful. So let's dive into it. So, the inherent problem with playing Nic Fit is you have a bunch of like this rampy type stuff, and then you have a bunch of payoffs, and you won't always draw them in the right order. We certainly had hands that just had big stuff, and we certainly had hands where we had loads of mana and we just kept drawing more mana. And I don't think we are helping ourselves on that front by playing these From the Catacombs, which is another card that already needs a setup, right? So this can target any creature, right? But we kind of just need to have more stuff to get us to this mid game. We need, you know, some more cards like Endurance, where we can cast them fairly some of the time. We're not powering them out. It feels like we need these to be somewhere along here on our curve, so we can actually play the game a bit more readily, or like a 2-drop of some description that works. So I think that's where I would want to try and change things. Also, From the Catacombs is a card that is better against this like slower controller decks that can't deal with initiative. Those decks don't exist in the format. They're like 10% of the format right now. It's one of the worst times you're playing control in Legacy. They're like just nowhere. So I just don't think having a card like this that is just like another big payoff that also requires some other stuff and the game to be going long and all that sort of jazz, I don't think that's worth doing. Like these could be just like 3 more Grist. Just run 4 Grist. Like every time I play a deck with Grist, I just want more of this guy. It's just fine. It stalls for a while. It gives you Cabal Therapy food, which is always nice as well. It's a little bit of removal. It's a win condition. It's horrible for Control to deal with as well. It kind of just keeps ticking up and doing stuff. So it does a similar job to From the Catacombs, but it's actually castable in a lot of other matchups and does things that don't require you to be popping off. Now, sure, sometimes you might get the Cabal Therapy into From the Catacombs and have a great time and just reanimate one of their guys and have the initiative and just run away with it. But in theory, like if we look at our big super late game ending the game type stuff, I'm not going to count the question because it's kind of like mid-range, but we have this stack of 10 cards, arguably these as well. So we've got 14 like haymakers. 4 of these are flexible into other things. Why don't we just have more things to do with our Green Sun Zenith? For example, why aren't we playing the little raccoon that takes cards out of people's graveyard, whose name I can't remember right now, but it's green, 3/3. You can pay 1 colorless mana, exile a card from a graveyard, and then once you have a Delirium's worth of types underneath it, then it becomes a 7/7 Trampler. That card should probably be in this deck instead of one of these. So, let's see, I can't remember what it's called. Keen-Eyed Curator, that's it. So let's start just like fixing this deck a little bit. So let's add one of these and take out one of the From the Catacombs. And then we can add something like a Outland Liberator. So we've got another useful Green Sun Zenith target. We could, I don't think we want the Dryad Arbor, but Dryad Arbor can help us accelerate to a 3-drop. Not that we have many of them. And then we could be running another Grist. We could be running, I don't think we want Round Excavator. It does give us like a draw engine with the Nurturing Peatland, but I don't think that's really worth it. We could be running a main deck Collector Ouphe. That's pretty hot too. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can add in that would help. We could also have something like Morlock. Actually, Morlock looks really good here. So this is another scalable threat that is good. It's pretty good early, pretty good late. And we could get it off of the Green Sun Zenith and just kill some little things. So maybe something like this would just be a little bit of a better list. Just bring the curve down a little bit, because we never did anything with From the Catacombs. Like this is a card that can do stuff early, can do stuff late. I quite like that. This isn't. So we've got a bunch of stuff that is only for the late game. Like these 6 cards are very much only for when we've got our mana underneath us in a big way. Now we are trying to do that. But are these cards good enough that it's worth doing this in a format where a lot of the decks are running more basics than usual because of things like the cyclers from Lord of the Rings having changed things up? So normally against like a tempo-y deck, you might not find any basics in them. But these days, you might find 1 or 2 basics in them. So you'll be ramping them a little bit. So the Flare of Cultivation was definitely not good as a 3-mana spell either. I think we can probably find a better way to sacrifice guys. Maybe just have, you know, a couple more Grist in here. Let's put them over there, just turn these into Grists. And maybe we keep a couple in there, or we find another way alongside the Cabal Therapy to do it. But it feels like we could certainly tweak this list and make it a bit better. Like, it was, you know, Battlecruiser Magic. We're just trying to do our thing, go big. I feel we're not really using Green Sun Zenith to its potential. Obviously, I've made some changes that will going to impact that, but I think this deck needs to use Green Sun Zenith better. And the mana is definitely awkward with our deck. We have all these basics, right? But that means that our opening hands can just be a bunch of lands for one color and spells of the other. If we had some fetch lands in here, we would be able to mitigate those problems but have less stuff to fetch. If we're trimming on Flare of Cultivation, that becomes a good idea, I think. So we could trim a couple of these and a couple of these and just get 4 Verdant Catacombs in, and all of a sudden I think our deck looks a little bit better. Yeah, sure, we won't have as many things to fetch, but once we've already fetched up, like, 5 basic lands, is that enough? Probably. We could probably trim 1 Bayou and have another basic, maybe. And that's all right. Or we could trim a Boseiju. We don't necessarily need 4 Boseiju, do we? So you could trim with these numbers a little bit, and I think the land gets better. The mana base gets better. I'm not convinced about Restless Cottage. This coming in tapped did actually cost us because we had the ability to Cabal Therapy if this came in untapped on that last turn, where maybe we get to play our Chaos Defiler and actually work. But that didn't happen. So I think we could definitely make some tweaks to this deck, like I've suggested, that would improve it. Now, you'd still be playing Nic Fit in an era where Delver is a really prevalent deck and has the ability to punish you trying to play the higher CMC stuff. But I think we probably can make this deck pretty good against Delver. Like, the endurances are certainly going to help here, so that's something. But we're going to struggle against the 50% of the format at the moment that is combo decks. And we did see that. Now, we can beat Graveyard combo decks, and we're kind of indexing into that and just losing to other combo decks. And, you know, that's a fine way to be. You can't beat everything. So maybe this is actually all right. We can go a little bit over the Delvers and stuff like that. And then we can cut out the Graveyard decks. But as we saw, the Blueback Reanimator deck is still just very good against what we're doing. We need to have a whole glut of things to interact with them, and they can still work their way through it. And if that fails, they can just Thoughtseize one of our massive yachts, bring it back, and then we're just under the gun and going to die. So, yeah. I think that's more of an issue with the Blueback Reanimator deck being so resilient and versatile, rather than our Nic Fit deck being bad, although it is Nic Fit, so it isn't going to be breaking the mold anytime soon. It's not going to be an amazing deck, but we could definitely improve this and have something that I wouldn't feel ashamed to be playing in. Even a challenge, I would take Nic Fit into a challenge with enough fine-tuning. I think this still needs quite a lot of fine-tuning, like the mana base especially, and the little changes I've mentioned. But you could definitely have something that's pretty respectable here. And it's nice to see the Alpha Deathclaw. And I also like decks that are running Questing Beast, considering that the One Ring is literally everywhere right now. Alright, I think we're done for that today. I hope you enjoyed something a little bit different. Please remember to like and subscribe. It does help the channel and doesn't cost you anything. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.